Hey everybody, welcome to our very first Star Citizen Live subscriber special event edition brouhaha. I should have read the card, but it's over there. I can't see it now. We have a live studio audience full of subscribers. Let's show them off.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I like the slow pan.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough.
That's a lot of work. Oh,
That's enough.
Oh, we're back.
You think just because you make the show possible, whatever. No, of course, Star Citizen Live is one of the shows that our subscriber program makes possible. It's one of the many perks of being a subscriber. So we wanted to do something special and invite as many people as we could fit into this room, which we estimated at 40, and we were just about right. So today we are taking questions exclusively from our subscribers. We have a couple from the folks here that are live, and we'll be taking them, of course, from our subscriber chat on Spectrum. So if you're a subscriber and you want to submit a question today, you can go to robertspaceindustries.com, go to Spectrum, go to the subscriber section, and put your question there with preface by question in capital letters surrounded by brackets. So our community management team can pull it out from the detritus. Before we get started with the questions here, we do, as always, want to introduce our esteemed panel of guests and Sean. Starting immediately from my right, Josh, tell us who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
My name is Josh Herman. I'm the character creative director here at CIG. Basically, I am in charge of all characters from starting to help at the idea phase and get them in game. So if they walk and talk, it's a character, I'm involved in it in some way. Yep.
And making his return to Star Citizen broadcast after a long and well-deserved hiatus, we have a lead gameplay programmer and formerly known as the Bug Smasher, Mr. Mark Avon. How you doing, Mark?
Oh, pretty good.
Tell us who you are and what you do.
I think you just did.
No. I said you used to be a Bug Smasher, but what does a lead gameplay programmer do?
So we have two lead gameplay programmers here in LA, and my responsibilities is mostly with vehicles, more vehicles, and vehicles. So if a vehicle has a problem, usually someone comes up to me and goes, hey, why is the guy teleporting when he spawns into a ship? And I look at them and go, I don't know. I'll look at it later. It's all vehicle bugs.
Gotcha.
I miss Bug Smashers.
And features, too.
And features. Yeah. Features. Both bugs turn into features.
Features turn into bugs.
And last but certainly not least, no stranger to our broadcast, Director of Technical Content, Mr. Sean Tracy. Sean, tell us who you are and what you do.
Sean Tracy, I'm the Technical Director of Content at Cloud Imperium Games. That means it's very broad. It's very broad, and it's basically, as Chris decides that I need to take a look at something, I take a look at something. Generally, it has to do with all the content getting in the game. We have a couple technical directors at Cloud Imperium, and my job is really to keep an eye on the data and the processes that we all use to get characters in, to get vehicles in, to get props in, to get whatever. So yeah, it's managing all those pipelines.
Yeah. And of course, if this is your first broadcast or whatever, I'm Jared Huckabee, Associate Creative Producer for the subscription program. Basically, if it comes from the subscription program, I'm going to have my hands in it in one way, shape, or form. That's from the new flair that's been coming out to the changes in our broadcast recently. Basically, if it's for our videos or for our subscriber program, I'm one of the guys. For the videos, I'm one of a tremendous team of folks here who would take too long to name all of them. But we do have Justin. You can't see Justin. Justin's over here, though. It's been a while since you've been a part of the show. I'm happy to have you here. Usually you're back there. All right, so we are going to get started now with our questions. Scott, I understand we've got somebody from our live studio audience here with us.
Yeah, we got 9 lives, and he's got a question about controls.
Yeah, I was wondering with the new flight model if we could have separate bindings for throttle forward and for the strafe forward and backwards, because right now you can't do that with the new flight model.
For the strafe forward and backwards, and then decoupled from which?
Well, I'm using HOTAS. So
Yeah.
I'm using the left hand for throttle forward, but I'd like to be able to strafe backwards and forwards for things like landing on pads and getting into hangars.
Yeah.
Where I can just put it under my right thumb and just strafe backwards and forwards.
Sure. That's probably not beyond the realm of possibility. Actually, we should take that in, and we'll put it on the player feedback. There's no reason why we couldn't do that. Not that I'm aware of anyways. We did a pretty massive change anyways for 3.5 anyways. Like the whole
tweaking.
controller remapping stuff. And we've got What's quite nice is that we've got resources on this now, which is, I used to joke about the button baron coming in and changing things. So like somebody would just randomly change a freaking key mapping and then everybody got confused.
For a while,
It's
between
like,
every single patch, the buttons just changed massively, and it was enough to drive us crazy, much less
yes,
them.
yes. So yeah, it's a really good piece of feedback. We'll put it in. We'll review it and then, yeah, see what we can do.
Yeah, this is the part where I have to say that's not a guarantee that it's going to happen or whatever, but...
No, but I want to make
Colson
sure
does
we get
watch
the,
show.
no, we make sure we get the bit of feedback and yeah, though Colson has a lot to do with it anyways. He's not actually doing the control bits of it, but he definitely has things to say about it. There's no question.
He has been experimenting with some things to get that finer control on like atmosphere and that, so that you can get that fine tuning.
Yeah.
He's still prototyping it. I'm sure we'll hear more about it.
Yeah.
But there is like discussions and prototyping going on for it.
Yeah, because what we're toying with right now is the VTOL mode stuff. So basically, we had the same sort of requirements for some precision throttle control. So it makes sense.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys. All right, let's see. We're going to let's see if we have a question from the live chat here. We don't. So who do we got next, Shakat? Yeah. Let's go ahead, and as soon as you've asked your question, let's go ahead and return to the seat so we can get the next person up.
Actually, I might just bring
Wiki.
PC.
Hey, man.
Wikis
Action
here.
maps.
I was wondering what tech is holding back the implementation of the cargo ramps on the cargo Caterpillar for them to actually go down and move up? Because right now you can just.
Oh, you mean like all the way down,
Yeah,
so
right
that
now
you don't.
it opens up, but the ramps don't
frustrating.
actually go down.
And it's not low enough so you can jump on them, which
No,
also
you-
bugs me too.
I had to kind of
yeah.
jump my thing down.
And actually, I actually don't know that there's any tech stopping.
So when we originally had that problem, it was when we had the Caterpillar, we wanted to combat it with a few systems that we didn't have at the time. So we actually went through and built a lot of systems to do this. One of them is called the interaction state machine. And this thing allows designers to specify states using our interactive state our interaction system. The interaction system is that thing where if you hold F and you look at floaty text words on to enter a ship or something like that, that's basically our interaction system. So design now has a way to bring in arbitrary states to say, I don't know, if I'm in this state, the door opens up, the door closes, stuff like that. And inside of that state machine, there's ways to do certain things like play an animation, play sound, so forth. And there's also another thing that it says, from game code, if I do a certain action, trigger this state. So we got the interaction state machine. Parts that we're missing are some of those variables to say, hey, switch to that state, hey, switch based off that interaction, play this animation. Well, I'll go back. We have all the animations. We have the interaction state machine. We're just missing some of those things to trigger the state machine to go into those states. So the thing holding us back is probably it's in our backlog and just we haven't gotten to it yet. Eventually we'd like to get to it. We just need to stick a designer to attempt to bring all those state machines to hit all those things. And if we have to add some code into it, then we'll add some code into it.
It's hard
Yeah.
because even with 500 plus developers around the world, there are still finite resources.
Yes.
And of those 500, there's only so many designers.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody's a designer. And then
I'd like to fix something there. There's not 500 developers, by the way.
500 employees.
There's 500 employees, yes, and a big percentage of that is not development, right? So it's not 500
Yeah,
developers.
so you get
it's
500, then
actually
you go
lots less.
smaller to developers, then you go
Yes.
smaller to designers,
Yes.
and then you go smaller to the designers that are capable
That do that,
and knowledgeable to work on this. So
And
it's-
there's only a few of those designers that are working on actual ship setup and everything. And the other trouble too is, say we have that tech available for a designer. If we don't have an engineer ready to help them with any problems that they come with it, so like maybe, hey, I'm like, hey, it's ready, go use it. They hook it up. If I'm currently working on a feature for something else and they're blocked, then they have to wait until I have time or someone else has time to go and look at it. So I know specifically which one that Caterpillar thing that he was referring to, because it was sent to a designer, then he got switched to UI, and now it's in our backlog until we could get to look at it again. It's just one of those, we'll get to it eventually. We just have to sync a programmer and designer when when production goes, or when it's one of those features that we want to actively get done and working on.
It's probably something we'll end up looking at next quarter too. The actor feature team, one of our larger engineering teams that is a mixed up team of designers, engineers, animation programmers. We're meant to be looking at player interaction system next quarter anyways. So that might get looked at within there.
And we have other tech coming online like the object container streaming that is a little bit higher priority. So some things do get bumped down. We still want to do them. They're still in the backlog. It's just other priority shift.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I want to mix in a question from the subscriber chat right now. Any updates on roads making it into the PU? For instance, we recently revealed the Tumble Ranger bikes, and people are asking about roads. We've heard Chris talk in the past about the roads tool.
Yeah, the person responsible, that would be responsible for the roads would be very upset if I said much about it, because it came up a year ago, kind of did some stuff. A year later, nobody had used it. Then they started to use it, didn't work anymore. So it was, it's a matter of priority, that one. And no, there's no real, in the next 3 months anyways, plan for doing much for roads. I think there's going to be some stuff in the Planetary Tools V4, possibly, but it's not a guarantee anyways. So yeah, kind of a non-answer, I realize.
No,
but
it's there. It's something we obviously want. But
yeah, of course, everybody wants roads and to be able to set them up, but more realistically, we have to be able to scale up again all the planets that we need to be able to make. So you could kind of got to decide: do you want to zero in on some smaller, not smaller stuff, but specific things, or do we go broad so we can do all the tons of content that we need to do? And the decision has been right now: go broad, make sure we can actually make all the stuff we said we're going to make, and then we can improve the stuff that's there. So. Yeah,
Scott, who you got for us?
It's on here. Hi, my question is for Mark and maybe Sean. So how do you think scanning is going to help the exploration mechanic?
That's all you.
That is a good question. I don't have a direct answer for that, but what I can tell you is how we're going about the scanning system. So we actually had a big discussion with John Crew. He's actually the vehicle director. So anything that like the vehicle team has to do, we have to go to John to make sure that it works with all the pillar directors, and if design works out for all other systems. So John did a wonderful job. He went through an entire radar and scanning infrastructure and looked at all the designs, pepped out everything, and gave us basically the scan Bible, the radar Bible of how we want everything to work. And in that, we discovered how we want to finalize what scanning information and how we get you that information and how we store that information is. So before, I've talked about this before in other chats, is our scan information has always had like, I think we called it 4 levels. You had surface scan, and those could just be arbitrary values for like, I don't know, the health of a ship, the player name, the model name of the ships, and then we had this other thing called detail scan, where you could have 2 bits of information for maybe, for the passengers, I have the name and the health. The trouble with that system is it worked great for a few things like ships and minables, but it wasn't broad enough where if I scanned a signpost or an arbitrary cup, I could retrieve information that would be helpful to me or helpful to a mission that I'm working on. So the scan backend is getting changed to hold technically arbitrary information. We could store, and this is actually happening right now, we could store any information on like mineable rocks. We could store any information to help you get that optimal level to mine, to all the contents inside of it, to passengers, their entire faction, their player health, to cargo, what type of cargo is it? Is it illicit cargo? Is it stolen cargo? So we're broadening how and we could store this information and what information we could put inside of it into a data model that we could technically store and put on anything. Now that we have this data model, we could technically now put it on an arbitrary item, and design could put arbitrary information onto there. And this kind of gives us into a little bit of that random data mission access stuff where you get a mission and says, maybe you have to go to this location, or someone has stolen this cargo, or there's arbitrary data, and I don't know, maybe there's a jump point here, or Bob killed me at this location. I don't know. You could store whatever you want in this arbitrary information box. So now that we have that, we could hook up the mission system to install this stuff. We could hook up the mission system to read this information, and then the mission guys could act on that information so that we could have, I don't know, a mission saying, I want you to go steal this cargo. You get the cargo, and then you have to sneak into an area, because if someone scans you and they find illegal goods, that you could get shot up. So the entire scanning system data structures changed to allow this bigger and broad gameplay that we want. And how that would affect, I guess, exploration is if you come across a data model or some kind of information item, you could scan it, recover information, we could display it to you, so it could be relevant to, I don't know, a mission, or maybe something that Sean decided to put his location of where he put his gold, and I killed him, and now I could look, oh, he put his gold here, and his combination is 1, 2, 3. So it will open up a lot of doors for design to make some interesting missions, and hopefully we could provide tools for you guys to put information into those scan data to make that interesting mechanic and gameplay.
It's like watching Bug Smashers live.
That's good. We've had lots of debates on how we want this to work and how it's going to work with other systems.
When we shoot Bug Smashers, I used to just sit next to Mark and just listen to him.
Well,
I'm having flashbacks right now.
Well, my favorite thing on the Bug Smashers was they said, just talk like you're talking to someone else on the game. And I'm like, okay. So that's what Bug Smashers was. It's like, I'm just going to talk about how the game system is going to work as if I'm talking to another designer or another artist or someone else.
One of the things I'm most proud of about this project is that we never dumb stuff down for people. So many of our backer community are in tech fields, are in science fields and whatever. So it's like we trust them to understand, and if they don't, they can look it up. Josh, I got a question from the live chat for you real quick before we go to the next question here. This person wants to know if we're ever going to see UEE uniforms in the persistent universe. A lot of folks want to role play as mustered out soldiers, or even like a former admiral or something like that. We actually have seen quite a lot of chat about UEE uniforms in the persistent universe.
So we haven't had an official plan on if we're going to release them in the PU. We know that if we do it, it will be after Squadron, because so much of the focus of Squadron is about the UEE. But also, at that point, we would have to get into more interesting stuff about like what ranks people would be, because all of our ranks are pretty fleshed out as far as like what they wear, what the rank looks like, what the colors are, specific outfits for different types of uniforms. I think it's definitely possible. I think it would really depend on what the UEE would be in our game. So are they like a peacekeeping force, or what exactly are they?
Right, are they a guild, are they a faction,
exactly.
are they a group?
We already have
whatever.
NPCs for the advocacy.
Yeah.
So
So I think it would be once Squadron is released, we start talking about how we want them to be in the PU.
Having said that, the designers love to try to sneak them in.
Yeah, there's been occasions where they'll try to populate. Designers are allowed to populate the landing zones with characters. And so sometimes they've pulled in UEE outfits.
Assets,
And
we had a couple admiral corpses for a bit. That was weird.
There was a couple of those, and we try to make sure they don't get out there. But aside from accidents, not till after Squadron. Yeah.
All right, Scott, who we got?
We got Fire Medic. So now that we have some persistence in halves, what can we look forward to seeing going forward on like the pathway to full persistence?
Well, there's a misnomer there, because there's actually several types of persistence in our game, right? So let's just run those down real quick so we know what we're talking about.
Want me to get it, or you got it?
Go right ahead, man.
So there's multiple levels of persistence. The one we're currently aiming for is going to help us get server-side streaming. So right now we have a client-side streaming. So if I'm a ship and this cup goes far away, it will stream out on me for the client. It's great because I don't have to run that asset, I don't have to run any logic on it, I get awesome FPS. Trouble is that cup's still on the server, and it's still updating and it's still ticking. So one of the things, the next evolution is to get server-side streaming. If there's no one near that cup, the server doesn't need to know about it. But one of the problems that brings is, say we get server-side streaming and that cup goes away. If it was some ship and it got damaged up because of some combat, if we bring that back on the server, we need to bring that thing back with the damage that it had. And that's where the next evolution of persistence is. And we have a lot of teams working on it. We actually have Chad McKinney, the other lead gameplay programmer here in LA. He's working on it along with a bunch of people in the UK to get not only the engine setting this up, but the actual persistence working on that. And to get that working, Chad is going to have to adjust how and when we store persistence. So right now with our persistence model, if I own this cup, this cup can have persistent information because it's bound to me as a player. But that AI is not bound to a particular player. It's bound to the server. So this is where we start getting into global persistence, where that cup is saving its persistent state, its damage, its health, its who's inside of it, to the server's version of the persistent information. So this model will allow us to stream stuff in and out in each dedicated server to unroll a entity and then bring it back on that dedicated server. That's the fundamental next evolution of the persistence and server-side streaming. Further out, you get stuff like server meshing, where maybe this cup's owned by a different server, so then you have to store his persistent information not relative to that particular server, but into the global universe. That's a much further away thing, so the first step is the server side and the server persistence. Now, once they have that system, just like client-side streaming, it's going to change a lot of the game code. I'm talking tremendous amounts of game code, so that's why the entire company, most of the engineers are going to be focusing on this. So as the tech comes available, game coders, including myself, will have to now change the system to expect that that cup is potentially no longer on the server. So I need to look at that cup and go, what do I need to save in the general persistence so that when it comes back, it's as it was. An example of a system that gets heavily affected by this is probably the ping system. So right now with ping, you could ping out and you could find things that are outside of your radar, which is cool. But if that cup could be seen by me and it's streamed out on my client and on the server, and I ping out and I'm expected to know that there's something there, I won't get that any information. So now I have to change the ping code to run, we're calling it a service, and that's basically it's not the game itself, but it's some extra code that can read the persistent data. So the ping code will now go, hey, ping service, is there anything within these vicinities that I need to potentially know about? And what that thing will do is go through that location, find all the persistent entities that are streamed out, and kind of look at the information and then read those variables that we stored in persistence that the ping would need to know about, so that I can display to you guys that there's something interesting there, so that when you go and fly over there, it could stream in and go, oh, there's a ship, or Sean Tracy needs help because he blew up a ship.
So, simple stuff.
Simple stuff. Easy peasy stuff. Yeah.
It's like the world's most
Real easy stuff.
Yeah,
It's like the world's
But
most
seriously,
insane
like,
juggling act.
and to maybe just jump on
Go for
that
it.
one, the server object container streaming will have a dramatic effect on the performance, like
Oh, yes.
dramatic. And there's a big reason, and I'm not sure how much we've talked about this, but we are hitting, and honestly, we hit them a quarter ago, but we are at a very serious limit right now of content on the server. It's actually really hard for us even to run our servers locally on our PCs now because of just the sheer amount of RAM that we need. So we've gotten to a state that this has to, like, there is no more content that we can shove in here. We have to have this
Yes.
working. What's also nice about it, though, and I know it sounds like, oh, all of a sudden every single game programmer is going to have to work on this full time. What is nice about it is there's pieces of it that they'll have to work on. So we have all these feature teams all across. So there will be a core set of guys that are working on it. That will be their day-to-day, you know, poor Chad and guys like this. But then what they're doing is that they're setting up tasks for those game teams. So the guys are still continuing to work on features. So for example, actor feature team has player interaction system, inventories, all these other things to be working on. That doesn't stop. We're still working on those, and then these guys are going to be feeding in tasks that they need to do pretty much at the same time. But this will take precedent over any feature by far, because this is the thing that's stopping us and stopping you guys from having really, really significantly better performance, not just on the clients, but on the servers as well. And in the end, our server performance, yes, is still degrading down, and it's only because there's just too much stuff on it.
And the other cool thing about this too is the persistent team has laid out an internal basically calendar of when they want to get certain things in.
Yeah.
It's not a direct thing saying this day we're going to get this. It's more like here we currently are on the schedule. When we get to this point, we're going to have to talk to these gameplay teams to get these things switched over, and these guys have to do these switched over. And those teams will go out, do their switches, and when it's done, we'll move the clock forward.
Yeah.
So it's like a progression system of sorts.
We're turning back the doomsday clock.
We're turning back the doomsday
turning
clock.
it back, yeah.
But
the content was
it
bringing
does give us, at least gameplay engineers, a diagram of when we need to complete stuff and when we need to switch things over.
Maybe to go right on top of it, and like a huge, but huge props to our.
He's been standing for so long.
Oh, he just got up. He's fine. He's been sitting there the whole time. He's okay. No, but really big props to like our planning and production team and the directors around that, because even when we started in on OCS, like it took a long time, but a lot of it was we had to approach it. We're kind of approaching some of these new things from a naive standpoint. Like we don't really know what we don't know as we dive into it, but because we've already done the client server, or the client streaming side of it, we already know pretty much exactly what's going to happen in here. So we were able to actually plan this one pretty rigidly. It's not like crazy R&D stuff where we're like, oh yeah, you'll have it in 3 months, and then 3 months later we're like, actually that's going to be 12 months. So this is, it's big props to those guys.
We call it game development, not game construction.
Right. But this one will be construction is the hope. So.
All right, who we got, Scott?
We got Nerd Show and Tell with his question.
Hey, man.
Hey, how's it going? When can I have a pet volleyball in the game?
When can you have which?
A pet volleyball.
Winston! Actually, so you could have it now if we made the ball. I mean, that's a big ask, though. That's quite the asset.
We're gonna throw away a month's subscriber flare.
This is 6 to 8 months of work, at least for an artist, right?
And there's a turtle.
And then you got to rig it, and then we got to animate it.
Turtle Winston.
But seriously, we should be able to put it in now. Didn't we had a basketball for a while? Yeah,
It was a basketball
I thought
asset.
Calyx did a basketball.
Yeah, we did a happy hour back in the day where he created a basketball mechanic because it was seen in the artwork for the javelin.
Right.
It was like a half court.
Right.
So we we wanted to see how much it would take to build an actual shooting hoop mechanic.
And I guess there wouldn't be too
Basketball.
much aside from just keeping it persistent. Like an
Yeah, but
object
the
that
turtle
you found.
persists now. So
Yeah,
we're
right.
good.
So I don't
Yeah,
think
and
too much.
there you go.
I do want to state that that's not the
Just have
same
to
as a
convince our-
commitment that we are going to add a volleyball pet.
Might not
That's
add
them
it.
saying it's not technically a huge achievement to get it done.
Yeah.
But
For an artist, it might be.
Nerd, let's talk after the show, man. All right, who you got, Scott? Who else?
We got Pawns Plus One with a good question.
All right.
Do you have any details to share regarding how players' itinerary is intended to work? Will each ship carry only what you personally stow or give access to all items that you own?
Inventory.
Okay.
You knew this was coming.
Yeah, appreciate the question. And I don't have all the answers yet, is the thing. So where inventory has been kind of a weirdly disparate thing. A couple teams had, a piece of it. So, hey, the characters, they have to carry stuff around. How's that going to work?
Is this the physical inventory?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, hey, the characters have stuff, they got to carry things around. Hey, the ships have stuff, they got to carry stuff around. Hey, we have boxes. And, there's been a bunch of different things going on. So, what we're doing next quarter, and I keep mentioning this anyways, it's on the roadmap, that we'll be looking at physical inventory, which is actually the entirety of the system. So, it goes all the way down to, a turtle or a med pen, all the way up to cargoes within the ship, being able to put stuff into those boxes, and so I don't have really rigid answers right now, but I can tell you that we've got to holistically tie all these different designs right now together. Like a good example, we were just talking yesterday about how strange it is that we say like a cargo size on the ships. It's cool, but we've not really made it really obvious that, yeah, you have a little cargo pad in your ship and it's got so much room, but there's nothing stopping me from just walking in my ship and just throwing a box in, So like, I mean, to a degree, we should be telling cargo sizes from, here's what you can lash down, basically, but then you've got volume within the ship to be able to throw other things in. So yeah, the main drive for that, by the way, too, is mostly to do with the player's inventory, like being able to take anything from my item port hierarchy and drop it into the world, and it persists and do all the things that it needs to do, and then that would give you lootables. And you saw, or what do we call Star Citizen Live? Is that what we call ADV?
That's what this show is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're on
Star
Citizen.
What's the other one?
Inside Star Citizen. It's very
Inside
different.
Star Citizen.
It's very
Sorry,
different.
Inside Star Citizen, you saw what Dan Truffin and that team has been working on,
Yesterday.
like harvestable stuff. So they're getting whatever they were, oranges.
They were fruit of some
orange
kind.
peels or whatever they are. But yeah, the players got nowhere to put them right now. So it's like you'd be walking around with orange peels.
Yep.
So we've got to figure that out, is the thing. But that'll be for next quarter.
Yeah. Now that harvestable collectibles tech, they were using fruit trees because they just needed something to test the tech. But that kind of tech can apply to surface side FPS mining. It can apply to all kinds of things. And the thing that's going to be holding that up is player inventory, because once you grab it, you don't want to be
Where's
like,
it
oh,
go?
now I've got a fruit and this is all I can do.
Yeah, and I
We
mean,
need that.
the challenges in it are just some of the expectation is that, Chris really wants physical everything, but from the art side and from just the performance side, we don't want necessarily porcupine characters, we call it. Like, if you strapped everything onto the character that you're actually carrying around, it's pretty nuts.
What's a performance issue?
It's a performance
And it's
issue,
also
it's a visual
issue.
thing. Then, yeah, backpacks, we got to figure that kind of
We
stuff
have to do
out.
backpacks at some point.
And
Yeah,
basically,
totally.
we don't get to just do this sort of invisible bag of holding, which would be the obvious answer to a lot of this, but it's not very, let's say, physical inventory. It's not very Star
It's
Citizen.
low fidelity.
Oh, kind of, yeah. It's a bit of a cheat. I mean, it is.
Cool. All right, we got Scott.
We got Black Dragon Tooth. Let's talk about the Redeemer.
All right, that's the end of the show. We'll see you all next week, everybody.
That was pretty good. Have you guys chosen the new manufacturer, and what are your thoughts on making it to Varan in nature?
No. Now, I do want to preface this by saying we actually have nobody from the ship team here on the show with us this week, so this is not a question that anybody here is going to have the answer. I do happen to know the answer, and the answer is no, that we have not chosen a new manufacturer. It's not been decided that it needs to change manufacturers. It is definitely something that we are considering. We've spoken about that before. When it was designed, when the Redeemer was built as part of the Next Great Starship, it was before a lot of the Aegis style guide had been completed. We were still figuring out what Aegis ships looked like. So when we had the wonderful team, I can't remember the name. Does anybody remember which team did Redeemer? No way? Don't remember the team? Okay. Man, I rely on you guys. But
I remember all the people in the team,
yeah.
but I don't remember the people's
yeah,
the team's
Paul
name.
DeLassy and
Paul
stuff like that.
DeLassy,
Yeah,
Jay
I
Palmer.
remember the names. I don't remember the team name. But we didn't have a lot of the Aegis style guide to give them, so they were able to freeform kind of develop their thing. But as we developed the Aegis style guide internally, that's drifted and separated from what the Redeemer is right now. So the question that we have to ask ourselves, and not that ask ourselves right now because it's not currently in active development, but when that time comes, is keeping the look important enough that we would change the manufacturer so that we can keep the look and maybe apply that to a different manufacturer, or is keeping it Aegis more important, and so we change the overall look to match Aegis. And I've seen arguments for both halves. So it's not anything that's been decided just yet. But rest assured, someplace like Inside Star Citizen or even this show is probably where you're going to find out when that time comes. I want to do one more question from the chat here for the folks who couldn't be here with us. This question comes up quite a bit, Josh. For character art, will we ever be able to tell the potential health or damage to a player by looking at the state of their armor or clothing?
Yeah, we've talked about this a couple times, I think. We've talked about armor, we talked about damage states. We have some technical, artistic limitations right now, where ships have they have extra UV sets where they're able to draw on other materials to show their damage states. Characters don't have that right now, and to do that would cost additional. So if we want to do that, that's an additional cost. But the first thing that we're actually looking for more to kind of talk about the whole part of the question, which is being able to actually see the status of a character or the type of a character. We've been talking about the different types of suits and clothing that players would wear, and basically starting to potentially theme them to be different jobs. So rather than everybody wearing similar, we're wearing armor that is essentially stats, but a lot of the armor looks different, but it has very similar stats, to change the stats that fit different types. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure, maybe a little bit. There's the concept that each of the armors, add certain things to the player's stats. A good example of this is damage resistances. But in the end, the design really is that we have very similar to what the ships are, sort of this power triangle idea. So whether they do good with O2 generation, whether they do good with climate control, or whether they do a little bit better with thrust. It's really going to depend on the suit itself.
Yeah.
So not the suit it will depend on the suit as a whole, but what's nice about the system anyways is that we mix and match stuff. So basically you'll be setting up your own custom profile to a degree. So if you want to do like a heavy marine core coupled with like an explorer undersuit, that's totally fine. You're just going to have a different profile than somebody that would go pure heavy marine or pure explorer or something
each one
like
of
this.
those sets will probably represent or different types of gameplay, so I would expect at some point that will happen. Like the existing armors and stuff you guys have been using might be rethemed to start fitting those types. So,
Exactly.
an explorer set is going to be more towards exploration. So what would that be in gameplay?
Sure.
Marine and combat armor is going to be for combat, so that's going to have more damage resistance. It's going to have different types of things there. And I think that's important so that players can see a difference in their gameplay, but also from a difference, like a distance read now, which is kind of what that conversation is about, like being able to gauge what a player, like the health or status of a player from a distance. This will help the players gauge what that player is doing. Is this an explorer? Is this a medic? Is this a combat person? Is this a bounty hunter? Like, what is this person from a distance?
So it's less about seeing a player and seeing how hurt they are.
Correct.
It's more about seeing a player and being able, based on your knowledge, your familiarity with it, being able to determine that player's overall capabilities.
Yeah, exactly.
And there'll be some stuff as well with so we're finishing, well, not finishing, but doing a ton of work around actor status right now. So the actor status system has not just health. It's not just about health. It's about all kinds of things. So hunger and thirst and knockdown resistances and things like this. So you'll be able to tell to a degree, as long, provided there's animation and things on it, like what a player's status is, sort of. What his current status kind of is, but yeah, whether you can tell the difference between somebody at 10% health or 30% health, now you're going to have to use FPS scanning and all that kind of work to do that.
We do have dirt and wear, which will affect it, but that doesn't necessarily relate to the health of a player. Like dirt or wear on an item just means that it's been used. It could just be something that they use all the time, but that's not their current status. That's the long-term effects on an item. It's a different thing.
But long story short, we would like to have the exact same ship damage
Yeah,
on
we
the
would like to.
characters. I'd love to have that. But it's absolutely a problem, this UV2 channel. And we need to use that UV2 channel for other things on the characters. So it's a matter of literally a data set just not existing for it. So,
Scott, who we got?
We've got Swiper the Fox.
With salvage on the roadmap for the end of the year, what do we expect the initial rollout to look like as far as gameplay goes, and what technical hurdles do we have to overcome before we can start seeing some of the systems in the Reclaimer come online?
Yeah, one of the big ones is inventory. So this physical inventory stuff that we're talking about, that's absolutely a big one for salvage. On top of that, probably a little bit of the player interaction when we're talking about actual like character salvage, if that makes sense. But in terms of any tech limitations on the ship stuff, I'm not sure of any.
I've seen some early designs and prototypes, but I don't know anything that's got finalized on that yet. So I can't really say because it's also on a different team. But I know one of the hurdles off the bat, because it's something on our vehicle team, is the way that we generate these debris entities when a ship gets destroyed. Right now, when we generate these debris entities, we kind of just take the item and move it over, and then it's magically there. It doesn't have any of the pipe connections or persistent information, and it kind of just will spawn, vanish, and then that's it. So we kind of need a more robust system to keep them there and have a way to extract items and maybe potentially the resources that's on those debris pieces. The other thing is probably going to be like our debris right now. If you blow up a ship and you look on the inside, usually this looks like an empty husk and maybe a seat's floating. Our ships spawn object containers inside of the ship. Those object containers just have a collection of entities, brushes, and all sorts of things. We want those things to remain when a ship turns into a debris piece, but there's some technical limitations on why they don't. So if you put some big bennies in the inside of your cutlass and it explodes, you would kind of want those big bennies to still be there, or any items you place on a cabinet or something. So we have to solve how we're going to keep those and how we transfer those object containers and the states that they're in to those debris pieces, so that whatever mechanic you use, you could extract it outside of the debris piece or somehow melt or turn those chunks into some kind of commodity. I've seen prototypes of just turning that debris piece and using the mining laser on the prospector to extract information or to extract those things out. But that was just a prototype of what if we did this. It's not like the final thing of how it's going to get implemented. So short answer, I don't know, but I have seen interesting things to prototype it.
It's kind of the same thing on the FPS mining front. We were thinking the exact same thing. We just grab pieces and essentially just mining pieces of ship.
And even if that's like the first version, it's a way to give like you guys a system to try out until we get something much more complicated.
Big Benny's going to have a lot of preservatives to survive the destruction of a cutlass, then.
Yes.
Now, torpedo burrito.
Well, see, I get a shield, I put it around the Big Benny, and then I blow up the ship.
Sweet.
Now you're thinking with science.
Let's move on. Scott, who you got?
We've got Ghost of a Wanderer.
Hello. My question has to be, when can we expect to see an update to the female rig and item handling, specifically with delivery boxes? My box sits here, so I can't see anything when I just go to deliver. I can't see the screen.
That's a metrics issue.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And it's happened a lot, like where I won't be able to do anything. I'll go to deliver the boxes and I can't touch
do
it.
anything with it.
Yeah, I mean, the animation team
Thank you
is
so
for
much for that
sure
question, by the
doing
way.
that.
Yeah, so as I think we kind of said with the first rollout of the female player was it was definitely a work in progress. Like I think we were all pretty happy with how it came out or she was delivered, because there's a lot that was going into that, from all the items, from all of the animation stuff, for all the ship stuff. There was a lot. It wasn't just a single system. So it's that kind of stuff that you're experiencing is unfortunately one of those we just haven't gotten to it or haven't caught it yet. Obviously that's something we have caught because we run the missions, but it's just one of those, we'll get there, and it's one of those things we're updating because it could be animation issue, it could be design issue, it could be a metric issue. And whenever you start getting into skeletons of different sizes, you immediately run into metric issues, which is some of the things we initially encountered on the ships. But it does become issues with things like items that all players are going to handle. So the boxes are a big one of those. And then other things are like cover. Cover heights, different types of things of, if you set, in a lot of games, you set a very standard cover height where if you like walk up to something, you can perfectly peek over it. But if your player is 5 or 6 inches shorter, now she can't look over it, and that becomes a problem. So just kind of, as we roll the female player out further, going through some more of those bugs. They're not really bugs, but they're things that we hadn't had to encounter yet, and so now we go back and we just basically fix them.
Yeah. So, I mean, whatever that animation is right now that carries the box is for sure just a transfer of the mail.
Yep.
And then whether that was not checked in first person or something
Very
like that,
possible.
or they put it in as is. But it's not a dramatically hard fix. So
No, it's
hopefully
good
they're
feedback
working on
though. Thank you for saying it.
Who we got, Scott?
We got Cleric Anubis.
Hey guys, my question is, when are we going to be allowed to follow more than the actual current cap of players that we can follow on our friends list?
That's a good
that's
question.
a good question. No US2 stuff here.
Why is that limited?
I think that goes on with just our performance on with our, how much stuff that we have in our servers right now. We're at that cap, as Sean mentioned earlier, where adding more is just, we're already at the extreme.
Yeah.
So if we need to get the server-side persistent stuff up and running, so that will allow us to get more content inside and potentially more players inside. But before we throw in more players, we want to make sure that we have the tech and it's stable enough to extend it and add more players.
I think you're more asking about like contact lists.
He's talking about the friends
and
list.
groups,
the friends
right?
list?
He's talking about a list of names.
Oh, the friends list.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we got enough overhead to add some more player names.
I don't know. That would probably be a question that US2 would know.
US2 or Benoit.
Yes.
Or Benoit and his team. Let me just go ahead and say we don't have the people here for the answer for that, but I'll chase it up and I'll see if I can't get an answer to Tyler Wicken and see if he can't put it on Spectrum later. Because I would like to know the answer.
What's
to
the
that
limit
question.
right now?
It's 50.
It's 50.
50, right?
Really?
Is it 50?
There's that a 0.
Is it up to 250 now? You got more than 250 friends?
Great.
I can't even fill 50.
It seems like it may have just been an arbitrary limit that someone added.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It could totally be.
Yeah, no, they're saying it's 250 now. See, so,
Yeah.
all right, so wow, you're way more popular than I am, dude. All right,
I haven't accepted your
who
request.
we got? Nice big Benny shirt.
Yes.
We got
I feel
Zeb
like
Go
that, hold
Pia.
on. That's bootleg Big Benny shirt though.
Made it last night.
Yeah.
In all fairness, my wife did. So
Toast!
full credit.
Legal's right outside that door, man. All right, what's the question?
Thanks for this, you guys. So question probably for Sean or for Mark. When we get server-side object container streaming in a local region, what do you think our peak player count will be for either ship combat or first-person shooter combat?
Whoa, that's a good question. It's pretty theoretical, though. I mean,
Now remember, whatever you say right now is about to be taken as gospel.
Yeah.
It is the law. It is absolutely what we have to do.
okay.
Whatever
so-
you say right now.
And you mean local, like, for example, like in Port Olisar, like how many people will we put in there? And it's going to be gospel? 10 million.
10 million
Yes.
server.
You're
cap.
welcome. See ya.
Bye.
No, it's really hard to say. I mean,
I think-
this is going to sound like a horrible answer, but
Yeah.
as many as we can get. That's probably going to be the answer.
What will probably happen is we'll have our current count, put people in it, go to Evocati, see what happens.
See what happens.
Put more people in it, see what happens.
Yeah.
That's probably
Yeah.
the realistic.
The reason we have Yokai is the reason we have the public test universe. It's when we feel that we
Yeah.
got the overhead, we'll start cranking up. It's how we got to 50.
And we do have more sophisticated testing than just dropping it onto Avocado. We have, I just went over it all this morning actually because we have to increase some player counts for something else. We have headless client testing as well as the player testing. So the headless clients are basically just a method for me to connect however many clients that I want. They don't do anything. They just get in there and I really hope they just did like random jumps or something like this. I just need data, but yeah, we can connect a bunch there. So we'll be doing profiling around it. That's the whole thing. But server object container streaming by itself, probably not going to make that any super dramatically improved. What will bring that one is server meshing. That's when it gets crazy because then we can actually shunt players from server to server. So realistically, I mean, I can't give a number. It's really hard to say. But I hope a lot. Yeah.
As many as we can.
Yep.
10 million.
Hey JJ. Hi. Their TV's about to shut off. Oh no. We have a screen so the people here can watch. And it hasn't been touched for a while, so it's about to power down. All right, Scott, who we got?
I'm probably going to botch this, but it's Rahoa Mantra? Rahara Mantra. Close. So close. Hey guys, my question is, what are the current or future plans to keep players engaged during a really lengthy quantum jump?
Oh man,
That's an
I wanna
ongoing
talk.
conversation. I
Good
know.
one, yeah.
I don't.
I can.
Yeah.
Little bits. Oh, I'm not good. Though.
Okay.
What do you think? What do you think?
That is the topic of a lot of active discussions right now. And it's one of those things that can go one way or the other way. And if we talk about one way and we end up going the other way, we get too excited for this and we end up doing this, we're going to disappoint half the people.
Yeah.
So like that. So it's a really dangerous thing for us to get into it right this second. It goes to a lot of why when you watch ATV or ISC or whatever, you go, why aren't they talking about this? It's there's a phase that certain things get into where it can zig or it can zag, and the zig or the zag are really big. You know, when we're talking about a degree of change, we're usually okay, you know, sharing that with you, because if it changes, it's only going to change a couple degrees here. But the stuff that we're talking about right now is a big zig or a big zag, and it would be irresponsible for us to get you super excited for the zig, and then we end up doing the zag, which will also be awesome, but you'll end up having gotten your heart set on the zig. So I'm going to say, I'm gonna put the kibosh. Do you have another, who was it? Is there something else you want to ask? Because it's a great question, and we're close to being able to hopefully tell you something about that.
And maybe just knowing that, yeah, we know.
Oh, we know.
We know. It's pretty,
we know.
pretty crappy to have a boring
If you want to
10
ask
minutes
another
of
question, tell
doing
Scott
nothing.
after this, and we'll see if we can get you back up for another one. We got?
We've got Hypersonic 1.
Hi, gentlemen. Love the verse. Love everything about it. My main question, as a hauler and a drug smuggler, I'm wondering if it's
IRL?
Well, he is wearing a Breaking Bad T-shirt.
We're in LA. No. One thing I would hope for is eventually to be able to spawn ships on outposts when they get stored accidentally or on purpose, and that's kind of a big issue for us right now. So.
Yep. We want that too.
Yes.
I believe there are, gosh, I feel like at one point there was an outpost where we could spawn vehicles. Isn't that how you spawn ground vehicles on planets? Right now, aren't there? But yeah. So it's just a question of, you know, making pads big enough and being able to spawn your ships there. And not making it so it's a magic teleport. You know, you park your ship at OSR, and then you hit your ride.
That's the main thing.
You hit your ride to Hurston, and then you spawn your ship at Hurston, and now you got to Hurston, you know, danger-free and stuff like that. So there's a lot of considerations for something like that. But being able to fly your ship to Hurston, land it at a pad that's in an outpost or something, and then despawn it, respawn it, that's definitely something I know that we want.
Yeah.
At least. I don't know
The main thing, and Jared hit it, is Chris just doesn't want you to be able to teleport your ships around, which is totally reasonable, because we want you, again, if you're going out on a mission that needs the Caterpillar, you want to make sure that Caterpillar's close by, or you're going to have to think about something else, or you've got to move this stuff around the universe. That's kind of the idea, is that it doesn't just teleport from, you know, Hurston to Port Olisar to ArcCorp. It just doesn't move like that. You've got to move that ship. That's up to you to make sure your fleet's in the right places to do the right stuff, which I think is a cool thing. Yeah, it's a little bit of, you got to take a little bit of foresight into what you're going to do. But there's no reason why, and I'm pretty sure Chris wants this too, that, yeah, you land at an outpost, you store that ship, basically, so you can then recall it back at that given outpost. But if you go away from that, you die, or you go back to Port Olisar or something like that. No, you got to go back to that outpost to go get that ship.
There's also it's just like having physicalized inventories and stuff. If it's a small little box building with a landing pad, like where would your ship conceivably go? He doesn't want to just disappear into the ether. Maybe some slightly bigger outpost that could conceivably have underground garages. And, you know, your ship lands and then it, you know, goes down underground. And that's where it stores. We always want to look for that solution that seems realistic.
We've even talked about really crazy stuff, like interesting things, like having even putting up missions as ship valets. So, for example, I am at this outpost and I need my Caterpillar from ArcCorp. I can put up a service beacon that says, can somebody bring my Caterpillar over to ArcCorp or whatever? And I think that's kind of a nice thing, and I love it. I really like these features that or designs that we talk about that give you guys a lot of agency to create gameplay to a degree. For example, I always talk about this, like giving you guys some like these like 10 racing rods or something like that, so you can set up a little race for yourself. I love the idea of player beacons, so that you can set up a mission so that other people can do things with it, or be, you know, trolled and, you know, thinking that you need help where you don't need help. And we like to give that sort of agency to you guys. But yeah.
If you ever see, what's your in-game name, Sean? Criminal?
Criminal.
You ever see Criminal sending out a distress beacon? It's not a distress.
Don't trust it. Don't trust it.
I want to do
I'm
another
just
question
stealing.
for the chat. The chat's on fire for you today, Josh. Hair tech. We a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago now, we showed a Tisha Pacheco.
Sure.
She had this awesome set of hair,
Yep.
and
We put a hood on her.
Yeah, and then she came out
We
and
didn't
she
get
had a
it.
hoodie on.
Had a hoodie on, yeah.
What's the deal there? How's hair tech going?
Hair tech is going well, but right now we're kind of in the phase where we're trying to finalize the pipeline of how we create the assets.
Yep.
So we know that we can make the assets, we know that we can get them to run well and look good, but the speed that it takes to make them is much longer than we want. So we're developing a bunch of tools, basically, that help speed up that process.
Do you do it one hair at a time?
You do not have to do it one hair at a time, no. We're combining a lot of really cool
Two hairs at a
tools, multiple. You can groom the hairs in Maya, and then we export them. So we're doing a bunch of cool stuff where we're able to style stuff in the game, or not in the game, but and then export it to stuff in the game. But it's just taking a little while to get the tools. Because we want them to be really smooth. We want to make sure that there's not it should be really user-friendly to make this. Typically, hair as an asset type is really difficult to make in any type of production, and it can be really tedious. So we're trying to speed that up so that we can make as many different types as we can. So that also probably will answer some questions that you might have about why you haven't seen new hair stuff yet, or why there aren't vast styles, or where there's not a big difference in styles, or why there's not long hair styles, or all questions that we are valid and that we have as well. But it all basically depends on those tools being completed so that we can make the assets quickly, so that we can replace and add new things.
Sure. And already, just to give some context to that too, the process that we have got online is still faster than usually it would take anyways. So we've already got big improvements, but because of the sheer amount of content that we've got to make, it's got to be faster than ever, right? Like, I mean, just the process has to be the fastest that we've ever used, so that we can automate as much as absolutely possible for the artists. So yeah, because
we have a whole new shader.
In other games, man, you are going down to the per hair,
all new tools, all new
doing everything. So yeah, it's a lot of work. But we don't want to, and of course, we don't want to keep using the old tech. So that's why you don't just see more hairs, thrown in there for that. But tech-wise, we're pretty much done. It's just it's a matter of getting it fast enough so that how many characters we have right now? 8?
Yeah, something like that.
Not a massive team by any stretch. So.
Also from the subscriber live chat here, will we ever see a compass or a direction finder in our helmets? Folks want to know just which way is up when they're walking around.
But which way is up, right? You've got zones. So
well, you're on a planet.
In the universe, where's north? Where's up?
Okay, but say on a planet, can our planets have a magnetic north?
They do.
But so can we have a compass?
Could you align it to the said
planet?
I see.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Sure, you could.
Yeah, I think Coulson talked about this once. Anyways, like it came up, yeah. But they want to put it on the HUD, and they're looking at that on the HUD for the ships, anyways, right now. I don't know about the character though.
We often get questions about not just compasses, but a coordinate system for planets, for being able to find your location on a planet, or being able to modularly tell people, I am at this coordinate on this planet, and stuff like that, a GPS for these planets. And we've talked a lot about the challenges of that because we have fully 360-degree landmass, and those you have the coordinates for this planet, but then you've got the coordinates for the other planet, you've got the coordinates for the moons, and how you transition between
So also
the two.
to get really accurate, like we can output coordinates, we output them all the time, like QA has to do that all the time for us right now. It's like this long. That's the other thing. To get real exact in the sheer size that we have, the precision of that number needs to be it's pretty high. So would be not awesome to read. That's all. But
another follow-up question on the hair, Josh. This subscriber wants to know when we can see some additional hairstyles for female characters.
Yeah, that'll all come after the tools. So once we create that, we have a whole catalog of stuff that we wanted to make. Even of the hairstyles that you can use now, we actually have more that we could put in the game, but we kind of thought that we would kind of stall for a little bit so that we have time to not have to update. And there's a lot of bugs that come with hair, as you've probably seen, where they stick through helmets, or They sort really oddly at certain angles, and to try to limit all of that, just to put less in, because we know that eventually we're going to replace it all anyways with this all new and better stuff. So once those tools are done, we'll have more styles and better styles, and just generally more hair things.
And also one other point on top of that is that you
facial
still
hair.
are making some hairs. They're
Yeah, of
just
course.
going into Squadron right now. That's the only thing. So they're like hero characters for Squadron. So you guys just don't see them, and we don't want to just take one of the hero characters
Yeah, and be like,
hairstyles
oh,
and drop it in as is.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of, we're trying to be, smart about where we're spending our time of, if you have, like he was saying, we have only 8 or so character artists, which is a big team, but it's not a massive team, to support, doing R&D on tools, building new styles, it's just placing your people the best you can.
When will the Big Benny get a hairstyle?
That's a good question.
Just noodle hair?
Yeah, I think you should have noodles.
Does it have to simulate?
Curly hair.
If it has to simulate, never. No way.
Curly? Yeah, like that. Okay.
Tyler's sending me a couple questions that seem suspicious about not Hawaiian shirts, I know that's him, but also backwards ball caps and flip-flops.
What?
Oh, okay.
It's all Tyler.
Tyler dresses for the job he wants,
Cho, but I don't
right?
think Cho exists.
We can definitely do backwards ball caps. We just need to make the assets.
No, Tyler wants it, so I don't.
Is that something that we want?
No, we don't.
I see one
Tyler
there.
wants it,
I
we don't
wear them
want it.
sometimes. I think we should we'll do so.
I'm going to ask 2 more questions because we are actually a little bit over time now, but I'd like to get through here. Some of these are pretty nice. We haven't had an update on scars and tattoos for a while. Tasha,
Yeah.
Anything to say?
We don't have
We've seen the first version of
updates.
Character Customizer.
Yeah, well, a lot of the updates on the characters we're doing right now are mostly on the DNA side, so like the facial side. So that's continuing to being worked on. So,
to give, and I think I talked about it last time I was on. Okay, we have tech right now for it's facial decals, and basically what it is you could do a tattoo or you could do face paint kind of stuff with it. It doesn't do scars well, though, is the thing. So what the tech is the decal layer that can go on top. But the problem is it only really changes the diffuse, and it's on purpose. It takes all the skin shading and stuff from underneath, so it looks a lot like a tattoo or face paint would look. So that would work fine for tattoos. We'd have to come up with the item board and all the ones that we want to actually apply to you. The other problem is we don't have a really good way right now to place it somewhere, and then further we'd have to persist it as well. So we'd have to put a port, we'd have to get the offset forward facing to you guys, and then from there. But tech-wise, we'd be okay. For scars, it's a bit of a different story because scars need a normal map. They need depth. Because otherwise it looks super fakey, like somebody just literally, painted a scar on somebody. It would look just the same way. So we need something that would actually make a normal or change the normal maps. And why that gets complicated is it wouldn't be so bad if it was just a face normal map, but because we've got wrinkle maps and all these 44 different areas of normals that come in anyway, so now you've got to put the scar across 44 different textures. It gets a little bit crazy, right? So because we've done some of these pieces of tech that again make the faces look as good as they do right now, it kind of makes it a little harder to put those scars and things like that in. What I'd prefer to do, quite honestly, is not even have scars forward facing to you guys, but make that happen to your character throughout the course of his life, his or her life. I still like the concept of them having life-changing events. Yeah, if you get gibbed on the left shoulder or something like this, every time you respawn, you've still got a scar left over.
And that actually goes back to what the question
I think that's a much cooler approach because then it tells a story, right, over time that your character has experienced these different things.
That's kind of what they were talking about before with the armor. I think I think we've actually spent more time because of the tech limitations on the armor about the sort of the death of a spaceman.
Yep.
How would that happen? What could happen to your player over time? The degradation of what they look like, or scars, or limbs. Like, what would we do with that stuff?
Yeah.
I think that's more.
So I hope that's where we take it all. Not only scars, but bionic limbs and things like that. If you respawn, it's your 50th time respawning or something like that. Guess what? Your DNA has degraded to such a point that you no longer have a right leg. So you get to have a bionic leg the rest of your life, the rest of your respawn life, or a scar or whatever. I just think it's really cool to have these life-changing events that really tell the story for that given character. I think it's an interesting thing.
One last question for anyone. What technical challenges need to be overcome to bring ship-to-station and ship-to-ship docking online?
Ship what?
Ship-to-station or ship-to-ship docking.
I don't know.
Yeah. No. It's more. We were just running it through in our heads.
Characters.
I'm sure for Mark Aben, it's the same. We're both thinking to ourselves, well, there's nothing really stopping it.
One thing.
It's which
that
one?
Magical stream.
Which?
The CR's magical stream.
Oh, the refactor bit.
So
I don't. Have we talked about that?
I don't know.
Okay.
This is where I get nervous.
Yeah. So CR is an amazing programmer, and he has this nice little stream where he is changing a lot of the underlying ways of how we attach things, and he has the support of a lot of the lead programmers in engine tech. So in this stream, he's changing how we attach things to and from different things. And one of the problems we have with our current tech is if we want to attach a ship to another ship, a whole slew of problems arise because the ship has an interior physics grid with a bunch of object containers, and if you attach it to another one of those, the code doesn't handle it great and it just has problems. So in that stream, he has provided a way to fix those issues so that I could attach a ship onto a ship and it would work as you would expect. And if we get that tech past QA and we fix some of the bugs that has resulted from it, it would open up the doors to give us that ability to bring a ship on a ship so that you could dock a ship directly on another ship. Like right now, I think on the Constellation, there's a fake Merlin, just because we don't have the ability to attach another ship on a ship. If we get this tech, we could then do this. We could attach another ship on a ship. Yep. So that's one part of the problem. The other part of the problem is persistence. So if we do attach the ship on another ship, we have to have some kind of game code understand that the ship is on here so that when we stream it out and stream it back in, the states and connections are established. Then there's also the other aspect of gameplay. What does it mean to dock another ship on a ship? Do we have to vent atmosphere in one to another? Do we have to decompress? There's another side of it that's getting handled by, I think it's David Coulson.
Yeah.
So it's coming, and there's pieces getting it to there. So once all the pieces are in play, I think that's when you'll start hearing more about it. Cool stuff.
That's about it. I got one last question. It's actually for me. It's from the subscriber chat about, we've been doing a lot of talk lately about a potential revamp to the subscription program. And the question is just, when are we going to learn more about that? We're in for those of you who haven't watched the first episode of Inside Star Citizen 4 weeks ago now, Chris and Sandy were on towards the end talking about how we want to do some revamps to the subscription program, not just the smaller ones like we're doing currently changes to subscriber flare that you've already seen, but we want to pursue larger changes, more in-game benefits, more tangible things that present a greater value. Of course, subscriptions make shows like this possible and whatever, but we want subscriptions to do a whole lot more. It's the shows and it's the jump points and it's the rec and it's the ship of the month and it's the subscriber promotions that go on every month and it's early access to events, and there's a whole bunch of subscription perks right now. But we think that after we're in our 6th year of the subscriber program now, I'm looking at you like you might know. I think we're in about our 6th year of the subscriber program. We're ready to push it forward and see where we can take this program. So it's not just hey, give us some extra capital and help make our programs nicer. We want to see if we can't make your Star Citizen experience better by it as well. Now, of course, we're still in that zigzag phase. It's just like the quantum travel thing. If I talk about any of the specifics that we're considering right now, and we don't go with that, then we yield disappointments and stuff. So we're not quite ready to talk about the specifics just yet. But rest assured that the discussion will happen in a forum much like this. We'll talk about the options when we're ready to go forward with it. And we're very keen on the ideas, or we're very keenly aware of pay to win and stuff like that. So it won't be, we're going to try to steer clear of that stuff and whatever. So it's, yeah, in case you guys missed it at the beginning of the show, I've recently been made a creative producer for the subscription program. So that's why you're starting to see some changes. It's a big part of my responsibility going forward. So we're in high-level talks with Tony Zurovic, with Todd Pappy, with the design team, the missions team, and to find ways to incorporate the program within the persistent universe more and make it much more attractive for you. So, and you know, you help us, we help you. I think that's a fair trade-off, and that's where we want to go with that. So yeah, that's it for our subscriber event. Thank you so much, Mark, Sean, and Josh, for taking the time to be here with us on the show this week. We've never had a live studio audience before. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, that's it. No more. JJ, let's wrap it up and something's got to get back to work.
Jeez, that's anticlimactic. Why don't you sign it off or something at least?
Go back to work. No.
You've been watching Star Citizen Live. I'm Jared Huckabee, and you're not.
There you go.
Yay. Yay.
And that's how it ends. It's very
out?
anticlimactic. It's really like, ooh.
Post show.
Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.